So in all these videos I've been doing and watching myself do some of these things, I start to see some things that I do a lot, like say that's an obvious one for a lot of us. But in some of the videos, I use hand gestures for what seems like almost every word that I say. And I feel like an old school Power Ranger where they hand gesture for everything that they say. Part of that, by the way, nerd knowledge for you, is because the action sequences that they used for Power Rangers in the old school Power Rangers was actually from a Japanese form of Power Rangers, and they just voiced over everything in English. And so whenever they were outside of the costumes, those were the only times that those actors actually had to do some acting other than just their voice, because they took a lot of stuff from that Japanese show. Anyway, some nerd knowledge for you. But here you go, here's some clips.
Yeah! We're good! We're ready to morph into action! 6, working together to fight evil!
And stop Rita and all her menacing monsters!
From destroying our planet Earth! And ruling the universe with evil!
Look out, Rita! We're not backing down because we're the Power Rangers! Morphin' time!
So with that out of the way, not a lot of extra quarantine, what we've been doing videos in this one. Again, if you've already watched Bible, you know that in the first video of this last week of school for PE, I will be showing some of those clips. So look for that in those videos. For this one, it's gonna be short and sweet and to the point because there's not a lot of work for Latin this week. I'm just assigning 2 assignments that are assessments. They're gonna work as kind of like quizzes, but not on that large of a scale. They'd be more like activities, okay? So if you wanna think of it that way. And just hopefully something to bolster your grades a little bit. The first activity or assessment will be mainly vocab type stuff. In that there will be some derivatives as well. So for instance, we may ask, you know, what is this? And we'll give you the English word, and then you have to give us the Latin word, or vice versa. And then in a lot of your activities that you do, sometimes we work on derivatives. So if you find any activities that work with derivatives, that's a great place to start. Again, you don't have to stress too much about studying for this, I promise, okay? It's not gonna be that difficult. Most of us, we don't struggle with derivatives anyways, especially when we're given options. We're usually pretty good about picking up on that, especially once we got closer to the end of the school year, we got a little bit better because our vocabulary was getting larger. But for the second assessment, we're gonna be going over some conjugations and declensions, okay? So declensions referring to nouns, right? And conjugations referring to verbs. So again, I'm going to tell you exactly what we're doing with the declension. So I may give you a noun that starts out in the nominative case, singular, and I want you to put it in the plural tense, okay? So, or plural. I don't need you to change the case. It can stay in the nominative. Okay, I just need the plural form of that same word. So for instance, if I were to give you Agricola, okay, we know hopefully that the genitive form is AE, so we know it's first declension, and we know where our stem is, okay? So this is the genitive form of farmer, so it'd be farmers. But also, if we look at our plural charts, okay, and we go to the first declension and the nominative for plural, our ending is AE. Okay, so this could also be farmers, and that's where if we see a word that's similar to another spelling that we know for, we have to know the rest of the sentence to know how it's being used. Okay, so for instance, if I were to just say in the question, the farmer, nominative plural, I would need this. If I say nominative singular, it would be that. And we know I. And for these assignments, since they're like activities, obviously you can use your help me sheet or your book for that. So again, it should make these relatively simple. You just have to know which declension these nouns are in so that you can use the plural form of them correctly. Let's do another one. Let's do, here's one where it is different. So let's do, put it down here. Pater, okay. And this is the genitive form. Okay, this is a third declension noun based off of this right here. Okay, that we take out the E and just have the TR. IS is the ending for the genitive in the third declension. So we know this is a third declension. Now, however, if I want to make it plural, if I want to put it in the nominative form plural, you look over and in the third declension, plural, the nominative, it is a long ES is the ending for the nominative plural. So where this one, to make it plural, it looked exactly like the genitive, this one does not. It is not an IS. It is a long ES. And if you have your book or your help me sheet with you, you should be following along and this should make sense to you. Again, this genitive, it just happens to be the same thing as the plural nominative. However, this particular noun for the third declension, its plural form is not the same as the genitive. So not all of them are exactly the same as the genitive. Some of them are, but not all of them. That's why it's important to know which declension these nouns are in so you can use your help me sheet and your charts correctly. And vice versa, if I were to give you patres and I ask for the nominative singular, you should be able to give me that as well. And when we move on to the verbs, this is something that quite a few of us were doing wrong on the test that we had last week, was if I were to have the one that we worked with a lot, not row. Let me move this. Use a marker. See better. Okay, I gave you this, not row, but this is also part of our memorizing, is also knowing the infinitive. Kind of like when we memorize nouns, you need to know the genitive so you know which declension is. For verbs, you need to know the infinitive so you know which conjugation it's in. Okay? Because if I were to say to conjugate this verb and I said to put it in the third person singular, even though we've been using it all year, okay, narat, some of us, we were going with the O. Remember, the O is only there when I am doing the action, if I am telling. However, that's not part of the stem. The stem vowel, it comes right before the R-E. So my stem is N-A-R-R-A. Okay, so this should be an A, not an O. Okay, we'll use a different one because most of us, when we were getting it wrong, we were getting it wrong with the imperfect tense. So if I were to make this imperfect, and let's say we were making it same thing, third person, we were doing this. Robot. Because we got this part right, the imperfect and the T, because that's the third person singular. However, our stem vowel is not correct. We only have the O if I am doing the action first person singular. Okay, because remember our conjugations, long A, long E, short E, long I. First, second, third, fourth conjugation. There is no verb that stem has an O. Okay, it's one of these four. Okay, so instead it should be an A because it's a first conjugation verb. If we have, let's say, a fourth declension verb, okay, let's go with audio, dire is the infinitive. Okay, now I know that it is a fourth conjugation verb. Okay, so if I'm going to do the same thing like here, I do imperfect and third person singular. Audibat. Okay, because part of my stem is that long I. Okay, some of us, I think we're just doing it too quickly and we just were attaching that O on for our stem and it is not. Okay, so that'll help us with our conjugation when we ask you to conjugate a verb. And again, we're not doing a whole lot of that. Most of what we are doing in the first assessment is just definitions and derivatives. This will be part of that second assessment, and this will get us into translation. Now, the translation part, you will just be translating from Latin to English, okay? I think a lot of you are probably happy with that you do not have to translate into Latin. Again, I know you guys have a lot going on this last week of school, so we're trying to make it a little bit lighter for you, a little bit less stress on this class particularly. So that's kind of our gift to you. We'll do a couple, for example, we'll do some basic ones, okay? Just as a refresh. So if I am in English have a sentence, using the wrong marker, and so for instance, let's go with the elephant is large, okay? Elefantus est. And this is a masculine noun, so magnus, we're going to use masculine form of large. Elefantus est magnus, okay? Subject, linking verb, predicate noun. If I were to have an action verb, remember my action verb would go at the end. The linking verb thing is another part that some of us were getting wrong on the last test. We were not using the correct conjugations for our be verb, our helping verb essay. That was a separate chart, and some of us were kind of combining it with a regular verb chart. So you'll need to know the difference between a regular verb and irregular verb. An irregular verb in English is something that we have to change the spelling completely in order to change the tense. Okay, so same thing with Latin. So for instance, ambulat is a regular verb because we just have to change the endings. We don't have to change much of the spelling. However, here, est means is. However, sunt, which is a form of this verb, is spelled completely different. Okay. Arat, you change the spelling completely different. That means was, okay, but it's still a part of the being verbs. Okay, it's just an irregular verb, so they're spelled differently. So that's where some of us were getting confused on that last test as well. Let's do a super short one. That is one sentence in Latin. Okay, what that translates to, we have, okay, first of all, we have the imperfect tense, okay, and we have third person plural. Okay, so I have they, that's third person plural. And we have natat, natare, okay, that is our verb, which means to swim, right? So they, and then it is imperfect, they were swimming. All that for one word. So again, we get more cues for what is going on in our sentence by the endings and our tense sign there as well. And we're going to do one more. This one will be important because we have not really done one like this yet. So we are going to have audis, de, victoriae. So we have audis, de, victoriae. We have a preposition here. We have our verb that also indicates who's doing the action. Okay, so first of all, where do we get our verb from? O-D-O, A with the I-R-E ending there. So we have infinitive there. All right, so we have audi, which is our stem. Then we have the S. So remember, with our verb endings, O-S-T moves to nt, the S is singular, second person, okay, so you, and our verb is to hear, okay, so you hear, preposition, about, okay, and if this is going to be in the proper case with the preposition, I actually did this wrong here, it's a long A, okay. This is an ablative preposition, so I have the ablative ending here. that is victory. So I would probably have my preposition, my article, the victory, because it's just one singular victory. So you hear about the victory is said with this right here. You being with the S there, hear about the victory. And that'll probably be one of the harder ones that you'll do on these assessments. So again, don't stress out too much about these. You don't have to go and look, study the entire book again, chapter by chapter. It will be good to go back and refresh a few things. So if you need some help on what exactly to refresh on, at the end of every chapter, there's the essential information there. So if you go back and you just, browse through those a little bit, you go back through the last 4 chapters, that's where most of our vocab is going to come from, is from chapters 10 through 14. You'll pretty much cover everything that you need to. You'll have, if you know your vocab enough, the derivative section should be relatively easy as well. Again, so don't stress out too much. You should have all this information for the most part already. This should just be proving that you know what you're doing when it comes to vocab and how to translate something. Okay, and remember, when there is a fill in the blank section on the portal, it may give you no credit for it, but just because maybe you have a spacing difference in what our answer key was or something like that. So you still get the answer correct, but the computer doesn't know that. Okay, so we go back through and we look at the fill in the blanks, the short answers, and we make those adjustments accordingly. Some of you have been raising concerns about that, but again, so when you see your final grade and you miss some fill in the blank or whatever, you can guess that you might get a little bit of a higher grade if you feel like you got the answer correct. Then when we go back through and we look at it, we're going to look at it anyways, whether you feel like you got it correct or not. Then you may see your grade change quite a bit. Some of you, for instance, in the last test, you saw your grades down here, but since most of the test was fill in the blank, again, computer can't compensate with everything, so your grade got brought up quite a bit for a lot of you. So again, don't stress out too much. Again, this is just a light thing to just prove that you know what you're doing when it comes to Latin. Enough anyways. So again, this has not been the easiest way to go through Latin, I know. Not the easiest way to finish. Not the most fun, because we missed out on Latin food day if we were going to do that, or the puppet skit thing, which might have been fun. For most classes, it's been fun. So we did get to miss out on a few things. But hopefully we still got enough that we're ready for Spanish or whatever foreign language you're taking next year. Again, sorry obviously about how the year ended. Not much we can do about that, but we are praying for you guys. We do miss you a lot. Hopefully, we'll see you either this Tuesday at school or sometime throughout the next week or so. And then if we don't see you, then hopefully we see you again next school year. If not, remember that we're so praying for you no matter what. We miss you guys. See you guys later.